A comprehensive historical and theological overview of Pope Saint Zachary. Introduction. Pope Saint Zachary stands as one of the most remarkable and influential pontiffs of the early medieval church, guiding the Christian community through a turbulent period marked by political upheaval, doctrinal conflicts, and the realignment of power within Western Europe. His pontificate, spanning from 741 AD to 752 AD, was both dynamic and transformative, characterized by diplomacy, reform, and mercy. As the last pope of Greek ancestry before modern times and the final pontiff of the Byzantine papacy period, Pope Zachary played a crucial role in shaping the church's relationship with a nascent Frankish state, defending ecclesiastical territories and fostering Christian unity amidst external threats and internal reformations. This historical reflection provides an in-depth analysis of his early life, rise to the papacy, his contributions during his pontificate, and the noble legacy he left for future generations of Christians and popes alike. Early life and background. Born in 679 AD in the town of Santa Severina, located in Calabria in southern Italy, Zachary was of Greek heritage and a subject of the Eastern Roman Byzantine Empire. Calabria during this period was an important cultural and religious link between East and West Christianity, reflecting both Roman traditions and Byzantine influence. This unique geographical and cultural position likely influenced Zacharias' later capacity to bridge divides between various religious and political spheres. Very little is known about Zachary's early life in specific detail. However, his intelligence, piety, and ecclesiastical aptitude led him to a prominent position in the church. By 732 AD, Zachary had already risen to the rank of deacon in the Roman Church and was actively involved in ecclesiastical affairs, as evidenced by his signing of the Roman Council decrees in the same year. His role as deacon placed him among the senior clerics of the church and positioned him as a trusted advisor in ecclesial decision-making and liturgical matters. His fluency in Greek and Latin, coupled with his deep understanding of theology and diplomacy, would become assets during his pontificate. Election to the papacy. Upon the death of Pope Gregory III in late 741 AD, the church found itself in urgent need of a leader capable of navigating the complex relationships between the Lombards, the Franks, and the Eastern Roman Empire. The Roman clergy and people elected Zachary to the papacy on either December 3rd or 5th, 741 AD. He was ordained as a priest and consecrated as Bishop of Rome within days of his election. At approximately 62 years of age, Zachary brought maturity, wisdom, and extensive experience to the role of pontiff at a time of significant geopolitical and religious challenge. The pontificate of Pope Saint Zachary. Zachary's pontificate coincided with a critical moment in the transition of power in Western Europe. The weakening of the Byzantine presence in Italy, the aggressive ambitions of the Lombards, and the emergence of the Frankish kingdom as a major force all converged during his papacy. Zachary handled these pressures with deft diplomacy and spiritual clarity. Diplomacy with the Lombards. One of Zachary's earliest and most consequential acts as pope involved direct negotiations with the Lombard King Liutprand. The Lombards were a Germanic people who had conquered large parts of Italy, including the Exarchate of Ravenna, an imperial outpost of the Byzantine Empire. Through Zachary's peaceful but firm engagement, he persuaded Liutprand to return territories and hostages taken from the Roman Church. This action not only restored important properties to the church, but also avoided what could have been devastating warfare. Zachary further demonstrated his diplomatic skill when he convinced the Lombards to abandon a planned assault on Ravenna and to restore previously captured territories. His ability to dissuade aggression and maintain peace through dialogue without military confrontation showcased his leadership as not only a spiritual father, but also a guardian of his people, his safety and property. Relationship with the Eastern Roman Empire. Zachary maintained respectful and cordial relations with the Byzantine Emperor Constantine V, who was known for his controversial stance on iconoclasm, the rejection and destruction of religious images. While Zachary avoided direct confrontation on this sensitive issue, he used his influence to counsel the emperor to reverse the ban and restore the veneration of icons. which had long been central to Christian worship and devotion. Though the papacy's political alignment would eventually shift westward, Zachary's efforts to sustain relations with Constantinople showed his commitment to unity in the universal church. His Greek background and understanding of both sides allowed him to act as a bridge between East and West, even as tensions simmered beneath the surface. Impact on the Frankish kingdom. Zachary's influence on the Franks marked a pivotal development in European and church history. His correspondence with the English missionary bishop Saint Boniface played a crucial role in reforming and organizing the Frankish church. Zachary entrusted Boniface with the authority of papal legate and tasked him with purging corruption, standardizing religious practices, and ensuring that bishops conformed to canonical laws. Perhaps even more influential was Zachary's involvement in the political succession of the Frankish crown. In response to Pepin III, Pepin the Short's request, Zachary authorized the deposition of the ineffective Merovingian king Childeric III. He then approved Pepin's consecration as king, a watershed moment that initiated the Carolingian dynasty and reshaped the relationship between church and state. This decision would lay the foundation for the Holy Roman Empire and cement the alliance between the papacy and the Frankish monarchy, eventually culminating in Charlemagne's coronation in 800 AD. Charity, reforms, and church building. In addition to diplomacy and governance, Pope Zachary's reign was marked by acts of compassion, social justice, and infrastructural development, a stand against slavery. Among his most celebrated acts of mercy was his intervention in the slave trade occurring in Rome. Venetian merchants had purchased a large number of slaves with the intention of selling them to Muslim buyers in North Africa. Upon learning of this inhumane trade, Pope Zachary acted immediately. He condemned the sale, forbade such trafficking in the Eternal City, purchased the slaves himself, and freed them all. This bold act sent a powerful message about the sanctity of human life and the Christian obligation to uphold human dignity. Church and architectural contributions. Pope Zachary also invested in the physical and spiritual infrastructure of the church. He commissioned the construction of the Santa Maria sopra Minerva church over the ruins of a Roman temple dedicated to the goddess Minerva, thereby reclaiming the space for Christian worship. The church would go on to become an important Dominican center and a symbol of the church's triumph over paganism. He also undertook the restoration of the Lateran Palace, the residence of the popes, which had fallen into disrepair. By investing in the renewal of sacred spaces, Zachary demonstrated his concern for both the material and spiritual condition of the church. Writings and theological legacy. While not as prolific a writer as some of his predecessors, Zachary made a significant contribution to the theological and literary traditions of the church. He is especially remembered for translating the dialogues of Pope Gregory the Great into Greek. This effort not only made the work accessible to the Greek-speaking Eastern Church, but also promoted the legacy of one of the most important pontiffs in history. His engagement in such translations highlights his commitment to theological education and the unity of the universal church. Final years and death. Pope St. Zachary remained in office until his death on March 15, 752 AD at the age of 73. His death marked the end of the Byzantine papacy, a period during which emperors in Constantinople often influenced the selection and policies of Roman pontiffs. Zachary's successor, Stephen, was elected shortly afterward, but died within days, never having been consecrated. Zachary was interred in the venerable St. Peter's Basilica, a fitting resting place for a man who had dedicated his life to the preservation, expansion, and sanctification of the church. His cause for sainthood was recognized shortly after his death, and he is honored as a saint in both the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic traditions. Legacy and conclusion. Pope St. Zachary's legacy remains deeply imprinted in the history of the church and medieval Europe. Through diplomacy, he avoided unnecessary bloodshed. Through charity, he uplifted the downtrodden and stood against injustice. Through reform, he shaped the ecclesiastical structure of an entire kingdom. And through his wise judgment, he altered the trajectory of European political history by facilitating the rise of the Carolingian Empire. In an era marked by uncertainty, instability, and violence, Pope St. Zachary demonstrated how Christian leadership could be grounded in humility, intelligence, and moral conviction. His life and papacy remind us that spiritual leadership must be both visionary and compassionate, guided not only by doctrinal truth, but also by the merciful heart of Christ. For all these reasons, Pope St. Zachary remains a shining example of pastoral leadership, political acumen, and saintly virtue. A true shepherd of the church during one of its most defining eras.